What's going on? Welcome to Fudge Muppet. My name is Michael and today we are pirates. Today we take what is rightfully ours from those out in the Starfield and we don't feel an ounce of remorse. Role-playing in Starfield is amazing. You can truly be all kinds of characters in the world and there are so many game-playing options out there to support a huge range of playstyles and character builds. In this video I am bringing you our Starfield Pirate Starter Guide so you can kick things off with some well-earned criminal knowledge. How to board ships, how to smuggle contraband, what you need to consider for how your exploring experience might change, how to steal ships and clear your bounty, what playstyles you might want to use, what backgrounds to consider, and how to view companions. There are all kinds of things you'd want to know, including how to join the fleet, but that's the easiest part and I'll be leaving that to the timestamped section at the end to avoid spoilers. Now for the good stuff. Wearing faction armor won't feel cool if you don't even know how to do the signature move of a pirate, which is taking what you want from ships out in space. You can use the piracy option to demand they hand over their goods or else. You may get an instant win, an instant rejection, or the ability to try and persuade them. If they do comply, you simply get to loot from their cargo directly and you get a 1500 bounty for doing so. That said, you can attempt piracy and back out bounty free before attempting persuasion. As ruthless as it sounds, sometimes when you find a solo ship, it's better to just obliterate it and loot the wreckage so the last witness is removed along with your bounty. To board enemy ships, you'll want to use the targeting control system skill from the tech tree and target enemy ship engines. You can use laser weapons to take down the shields easier and then ballistics to damage the hull, but in general blast enemy ships engines until they're disabled, and then if you're in range you can select to dock and then board. Making a great ship as a pirate is a major key, so I strongly recommend you check out our shipbuilding guide on the channel for some great tips from hundreds of hours of experience to learn exactly how to make the best ones. For now, I'll simply say that you'll want to get the piloting skill, particularly rank 3 to fly B-class ships instead of A, which is the weakest, and then if you want the best of the best, get rank 4 to fly C-class. I'd also highly recommend getting boost pack training. It's great for general combat and exploration, but I also love using it when boarding because being able to boost up the ladders instead of having to climb them while bullets are flying around just makes so much more sense. Starship design is another area you can invest skill points in order to be able to use the most advanced ship parts on offer, including some of the best weapons and a good reactor that can allocate lots of power to your different systems. A strong grav drive is also cool for pirates because if you're ever in trouble and want to escape, or you're being scanned for contraband and think you're gonna fail and get caught, you can quickly grav jump out of there to a safe planet somewhere else. One weapon type that helps with boarding ships is electromagnetic weapons. EM weapons can be used to take down the various systems of a ship, including the engines, without accidentally blasting the spacecraft to pieces like other damage types, making the boarding process smoother, especially if you want to steal it. Once you board, you can take out the crew and then loot anything you want. The best stuff is usually found in the cockpit, be that in the cargo or the captain's locker. After doing this, you can leave in your ship and blow the now empty ship apart for style points, or you can steal it if it's better than yours or you want to sell it. However, if you want to use a ship that you forcefully commandeer and make it your home ship, that is the one you use, then you'll need to go to one of the shipyard vendors and register the ship. Then you'll be able to mod it up or sell it to these vendors, but the price difference between the registration fee and the sell price is rather small. On big ships you can make better amounts in the spread, but overall it's definitely not some super fast way of getting rich. I personally view selling stolen ships as more of a fun role-playing thing, or a may as well type of thing if I'm going to be returning to a city, or I find a decently expensive ship landed on a planet and steal it off the surface. Your previous ship you used to board will go back with you, so don't worry about it getting lost out there. Playing a pirate is super fun, but you're going to have to accept that you are a criminal and you'll cop bounties here and there. In fact, if you're super ruthless, you might just have to accept the fact that you'll have huge bounties and be a wanted criminal for long periods of time. It's part of the experience, and you really can hop between safe systems and just go out for piracy and use vendors that aren't in places with law enforcement and have a great role-playing time. So you get 1500 bounty for succeeding at piracy attempts, and this option becomes available when you hail a ship. You get some XP for winning the persuade attempt, but sometimes the 1500 bounty, which is actually small in the grand scheme of things, still doesn't feel worth it if the ship has very little on board. This is why joining the Crimson Fleet can be extra worth it, because you can do piracy missions from their mission boards to get extra credits and XP for doing something you wanted to do anyway for role-playing a pirate. From my experience, the loot tends to be way better for the mission board targets as well. You can use the self-service bounty clearing boards found next to many mission boards to clear your bounty here and still come come out with a big profit if all you got was the 1500. The downside though to the mission boards is that there may be limited options at the time, and you might be sent to rob a ship that is surrounded by too many allies, and you end up getting a big bounty. And if you make a unique character with a specific allegiance, for example, you might like the Freestar Collective and hate the United Colonies, the mission board might only be offering piracy missions against Freestar ships. I will say that in general, the bounty system feels a little tricky and inconsistent at the moment, so I'll make a big crime and bounty guide later on. Scott and I have found that sometimes the last witness thing works in groups of ships and many times it doesn't. So as a rule of thumb, if you're not trying to get a big bounty, then try not to target large groups of ships and go on a murdering spree. Lone stragglers make for easier pickings, but big ship battles are so much fun, and to be honest, I just embraced being an extremely notorious pirate. Either way, if you do get a bounty that's significant, you'll be arrested on sight by security guards in cities, but also when you just orbit planets that are Freestar or UC controlled. You're faced with the option to fight them, or go with them to pay off your bounty and lose all your stolen goods. If you don't want to pay your bounty, can't afford to, and don't want to resist arrest, you can serve your time. Doing so will see you lose some XP depending on how much bounty you have, although it doesn't seem like it takes you down an actual level. Originally I thought if you did a ton of really bad stuff, had only recently leveled up, and then removed your huge bounty by going to jail, it could be worth the small XP loss. However, even though you can't see it, I discovered that you actually get an XP debt. It took me ages after a huge XP loss from jail to get the progress bar back into positive territory in the menu, so going to jail for a seriously high bounty can be a big deal, and to be fair, I feel like that makes sense, so a pirate tries to avoid jail as much as possible anyway. It doesn't sound like a fun playthrough to constantly be turning yourself in if you could just cheese it with little consequences, but getting rid of bounty at one point, even a large one, might be worth it for you, particularly if you're wanting to do some main mission or faction quests that constantly require visiting civilization. If you've sold all your stolen items before you're arrested, you might not care and can still pay off a bounty and come out with a profit from the credits you got looting and completing piracy mission board tasks, so long as you didn't get done for a murder spree. But again, those sprees in space can happen. As mentioned, you can clear bounties at those clearance boards, but there is a small fee here, which seems to be 10%, so it's technically cheaper to pay off bounties to the guards directly if you're going to do that, unless of course you're carrying stolen goods and contraband you're yet to sell. Stolen goods and contraband can be sold to trade authority vendors as well as vendors within the Crimson Fleet. They can also be sold on a planet called Porima 3 to the bartender. Thievery missions can be accepted from the fleet mission boards too, and they'll send you to locations around the place to steal crates of goods. It's nothing crazy, but it's a fun little add to the role-playing if you're vibing it, and usually there will be other crates that aren't related to the mission in the same container, and you can take and sell those too. Same goes for when you're sent to do piracy tasks. Otherwise, when it comes to general theft, you can do it the old-fashioned fun way where you just go into places and steal things for yourself. Investing in stealth can help with this, as you'll be able to see if you're detected while stealing, though usually you can get away with it pretty easily, particularly for the mission board tasks. The theft skill can be used to pickpocket people as well, although from my experience this is more of a role-playing thing. It's not really a way to get rich. You'll use it in quests to get something valuable someone refuses to part with, or to steal a key card from their pocket to get into a certain room. Stuff like that. Security is similar in some regards. It's really cool if you lockpick open a chest that does end up having good items, but for the most part you will earn way more credits with a general shoot and loot approach. Still get it if you're interested in picking your way into locks on containers, doors and computers from a role-playing perspective and want to see what that has to offer. There's plenty of containers around, just don't view it as some skill you can't afford not to have. Almost all the trade authority vendors are in Freestar or UC space, which means you'll need to get your contraband around the scanners. But if you land on Porima 3 or the location of the Crimson Fleet, then you can sell the contraband worry-free. There's plenty of cool contraband in the game, often an item that appears like a briefcase, and you can sell it for a nice chunk of credits. The Porima 3 planet I've mentioned is the most accessible way to do this if you haven't joined the Crimson Fleet, so here's where the Porima system is on the map, and here's the planet where you'll find the Red Mile and the bartender inside. Speaking of Porima 3, the ship vendor here will also be able to offer you shielded cargo to put your contraband in, and signal jammers to increase the chance you pass the scans. These can also be sold by the Crimson Fleet ship vendor. It's all very straightforward in terms of attaching this to your ship. However, there is one super important thing you need to do if you're going to take contraband into a city like Aquila or New Atlantis. You need to manually place it into your ship's cargo. That is, place it in the container in your cockpit. If it's just in your personal inventory, you will fail the scan. Similarly to boarding ships, this is a really cool pirate thing to do, but similar to other things, again, it's not some crazy way to get rich. You'll still make most of your credits doing missions and looting along the way, managing your inventory well and selling everything you pillage. That said, the chunky number of vendors within the Crimson Fleet provide for a very convenient way to sell big hauls fast, whether it's clean or filled with stolen goods and contraband. Contraband smuggling, taken on from a mission board, provides you with crates full of the stuff that will automatically be placed into your cargo, and these function very much like a regular cargo haul mission, where you simply land on a planet to complete it, except with the scanning process in the mix. Now that you know how to be a pirate, you really need to know who you are. You're going to be stealing cargo from ships through coercion or straight up firepower, smuggling contraband, and robbing people blind, so what kinds of backgrounds and traits should you pick? Well, you're gonna have to set your morals aside as you benefit at the expense of others and navigate the criminal world. Space Scoundrel is a great option here. The background starts with pistol certification, piloting, and persuasion, and would be pretty good if you want to roleplay as a kind of smooth-talking, pistol-blasting Han Solo character who isn't shy of sus activities when it comes to making money. I played through as a gangster in my first playthrough, and I strongly recommend it. It does start with shotgun certification, boxing, which I didn't use, and theft. You could probably also go for bouncer as another general rough archetype, or cyber runner if you want to feel like more of a stealthy pirate. One of the best backgrounds in terms of starting skills and roleplaying if you do it correctly is bounty hunter. This starts with piloting, targeting control systems, and boost pack training, all of which I'd recommend. The most important thing here is to realize that if you pick bounty hunter, then the bounty hunting radiant missions in the game will be sending you after pirates, which doesn't really make sense because they're allies. It would feel weird to just side against them and kill them to get some credits if you're becoming part of the Crimson Fleet. So if you pick the bounty hunter background, you have to accept avoiding radiant missions where you hunt fleet pirates, which can be completely okay if you roleplay that it was a past occupation that you had, but now you've taken to pirating. You'd still hunt someone down for credits if given the chance, just not a fellow Crimson Fleet pirate. Of course, there's no pirate background option available, so if you want to be a feared pirate known as the Chef, who can talk about such a background and uses knives with a melee build setup, you can. Obviously, I won't spoil the Crimson Fleet storyline, but I can safely say that in joining this faction, you don't have to be like some kind of messed up serial killer type. You can be, but there's certainly options. One trait that fits really well is Wanted. You begin the game with a special bounty, not the usual sort, but someone out there has put a price on your head, and mercenaries will show up to try and kill you. But being cornered gives you an edge. When your health is low, you'll do extra damage, but more importantly, you'll get more dialogue about being a criminal and other cool role-playing opportunities. As for the other two traits, you can go with whatever you'd like. Introverted isn't a bad choice if you don't use any companions, as it makes you use less oxygen when adventuring alone. The faction traits like Neon Street Rat can be cool too, but just be mindful with these faction traits as they can make you get more bounty with other factions who do become regular piracy targets, so I'd only get them if they're particularly important to role-playing the character that you have in mind. We've already mentioned some of the skills you want, but I'll also add that you'll enjoy a pirate most with some sort of combat skill investment. You could just focus on mixing a damage type with a gun type like ballistics and shotgun certification, and then if you want you can get extras later on like marksmanship and targeting or even armor penetration. If you want melee, then you'll go with dueling. Just don't waste points on things unless they're going to be there for the long term. Some other cool skills to get are actually in the social tree, so if you want to be a smooth talker, then I'd definitely get a rank or two of persuasion, and I would recommend dipping into intimidation even just to get one rank for dialogue role-playing potential. It can come up in the piracy speech checks to help you succeed as well. You don't have to use it in combat if you don't want to make enemies flee as part of your playstyle. The isolation skill in the social tree makes you deal more damage and increases damage resistance when you have no companion but also no crew. Crew can help on your ship if they have certain specialties, and you may wish to hire some, such as Jessamine, who is found in the Crimson Fleet area in the bar, but if you're willing to forego crew and be a ship expert all yourself, then the isolation skill can make you deadly and hard to kill. There's also a skill called Deception, which says ships 10% stronger than you will automatically yield to piracy demands, and enemy contraband scanners are 10% less effective. It goes up to 20%, then 30%, then 50% at rank 4 for both of these things. However, I seem to have a bug with this skill, unfortunately, at the time of making this video, because even ships weaker than me weren't surrendering automatically to piracy demands when I got the first rank. Anyway, if we imagined it's working perfectly, it seems like a fun role-playing skill to get for a super competent smuggler type pirate, and also for anyone wanting to avoid racking up big bounties and just make a profit by looting and paying off the 1500 bounty you get for the successful successful piracy attempt. I don't think it's 100% necessary for smuggling though, as you can get past the scanners easy with good signal jammers and shielded cargo. I'd recommend making a save first, getting the first rank of this, seeing if it works, and then let me know in the comments how it is for you. In terms of companions, there's the main ones from Constellation that all have different personalities, but for the most part they're all different flavors of good guys, and while they can be good to use with various builds, they won't like the kind of things you'll do as a pirate, and trust me, it's not fun to get a lecture when you're trying to indulge your space pirate fantasies. Just don't assign them to companion or crew slots. Due to this, the kinds of companions you can use are limited. There are some options like Jessamine, who I mentioned, who are fine with you doing immoral things, and while you can ask them personal questions and hear their backstory and get a general idea of their life philosophies, they won't be talking in conversations dynamically or dropping contextually relevant lines like the other main companions do. Another good option for a pirate is Mathis, who you'll meet doing the Crimson Fleet plot. He can end up as a companion later down the line if you're good to him. These companions are fun flavor to have around for a pirate, but I can't blame anyone for forgoing companions entirely as a pirate. Hopefully we do get a really deep companion in DLC who is as fleshed out as the Constellation ones and is up for some mayhem. On the bright side, it's so good that in Starfield that you can absolutely roleplay as a bad person who does bad things in both dialogue, choice, and gameplay. Also, for aesthetic options, there's enough mercenary and bounty hunter spacesuits to find in the game, and there's Crimson Fleet pirate armor too, which you can loot off dead pirates you kill before you actually join them, or buy from fleet vendors. I also want to let you know that once you join the Crimson Fleet, any pirates you do run into are friendly. It can be a bit of a buzzkill when you see a structure in the distance while exploring a planet and go there expecting to fight through the location and have action-packed fun looting, only to discover it's full of friendlies. You would absolutely want this in a role-playing game though, so I guess I wouldn't have it any other way. Good thing there's enough other enemy types to find inhabiting structures in the game that fill the same role. So that brings us to how to join the Crimson Fleet. I'll still keep things pretty vague honestly, so not much will get spoiled, but I'm basically going to tell you what to do so you can join them early on. If you don't want to know, then I'll see you in the next video. So for those of you still here, you can actually just play through the main quest just a tiny bit before Sarah Morgan from Constellation goes with you to talk to this UC character by the name of Commander Tuala. Sign up for UC Vanguard, complete the joining mission, and begin your first official Vanguard task. Once you return back from what I must say is a pretty fun mission, Tuala gives you the next mission and also lets you know that Commander Ikande wants to speak with you. When you go to Ikande and meet him, he'll be happy to see you, and joining the Crimson Fleet will become straightforward from what happens next. Alternatively, if you commit a crime and get arrested, you'll meet Commander Ikande in a completely different way. Either way, things kick off from there, and you'll be put on a path to join the fleet without any confusion or any more needed explanation from me. Once you join them, you'll be able to use their base known as the Key within the system called Crix. There's lots of vendors here to sell and buy from, and the piracy mission boards as stated earlier. If you try to go to Crix before the quest, we found they just attack you on sight and try and blow you to pieces. The Crimson Fleet story is really cool, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, and obviously help the fleet as much as possible if you're playing a pirate build. Subscribe for all the Starfield builds we have coming. You will get a full-on pirate and so much more like the gunslinger build we've got coming very soon. And don't forget to watch our shipbuilding guide next on the channel. My name is Michael, and I'm going back to play more Starfield.